Hello, homeschoolers of Maine. My name is Eric Amos, and I am very excited for the opportunity to tell you what I think it means to preserve freedom. A little bit about me: I served in the United States Air Force for 9 years, and I currently serve as the program coordinator for the Military Veterans Leadership Congress at Patriot Academy. This weekend, we'll celebrate the Memorial Day holiday. While we all celebrate a little bit differently, it's important for us to remember what we are celebrating. Memorial Day is a day of honor and remembrance. It's an opportunity to honor the men and women who gave their lives to support and defend the Constitution. These heroes understood sacrifice, and they gave the ultimate sacrifice to preserve the freedoms and liberties that you and I get to enjoy in this nation. One way that I like to honor those heroes is by remembering them. Now, you may have seen a veteran or a service member wearing one of these metal bracelets. These are memorial bracelets. We wear these to honor our brothers and sisters in arms who gave that ultimate sacrifice. They also serve as a humbling reminder of the commitment that we made to a cause bigger than ourselves. Now, there are two names on my memorial bracelet. The first one is Captain Drew Dellicker, who was a friend and classmate of mine who gave his life when his plane went down during a training mission. The second name is of a man that I have never met and who died in service to our country long before I was born. His name is Private Roger Young. Now, I want to take a few minutes to talk about Private Roger Young because I believe he epitomizes selfless sacrifice, and his story ingrains in me a commitment to live in a way that is worthy of his sacrifice. Also, I'm sure that as homeschoolers, y'all are always up for a quick history lesson. And this history lesson isn't in any history book that I grew up with. I only heard Private Young's story a few years ago. Now, Private Young was an Army infantryman who served in the Pacific Theater in World War II, and he was awarded the Medal of Honor for his valor in combat. Now, I will read a short account of his actions that resulted in him being awarded with the Medal of Honor. On July 31st, 1943, the infantry company of which Private Young was a member was ordered to make a limited withdrawal from the battle line in order to adjust the battalion's position for the night. At this time, Private Young's platoon was engaged with the enemy in dense jungle where observation was limited. The platoon was suddenly pinned down by intense fire from a Japanese machine gun concealed on higher ground only 75 yards away. The initial burst wounded Private Young. As the platoon started to obey the order to withdraw, Private Young started creeping towards the emplacement. Despite a second wound, he continued his heroic advance, attracting enemy fire and answering with rifle fire. When close to his objective, he began throwing hand grenades, and while doing so was hit again and killed. Private Young's bold action in closing with this Japanese pillbox and thus diverting its fire permitted his platoon to disengage itself without loss and was responsible for several enemy casualties. Now, after hearing that account of Private Young's courage and bravery that saved the lives of his entire platoon, you might have the vision of a tall, bulky, Captain America-like figure. If so, you might have watched one too many Marvel movies. Roger Young was a man of such small stature that he wasn't initially accepted onto his high school's football team. Though, because of his persistence and hard work, he was eventually allowed to play. Not only was Private Young small, but he also suffered a head injury at a young age that resulted in significant damage to his hearing and eyesight. Despite all these limitations, Young was accepted into the Ohio National Guard and was the shortest man in his company. Now I'm going to read one more account of Private Young of what he did leading up to his actions on July 31st. In October 1940, a year after joining the National Guard, Young and his unit were activated for federal service as part of American preparations for World War II. At that time, Young was a corporal, training new recruits in small arms handling. Following a promotion to sergeant, Young was assigned to lead an infantry squad. In 1942, soon after America's entry into the war, the 148th embarked for Fiji in the Pacific, and after that to the nearby Solomon Islands for training prior to a deployment to the Japanese-held island of New Georgia. By this time, Young's hearing and eyesight had deteriorated to a point where, taking into account the safety of those under him, Young requested a demotion to private, which would render him unable to command a squad. When Young submitted his request to the company commander, the commander initially thought that Young was malingering in order to avoid combat. However, a medical examination carried out soon after determined that Young was nearly deaf, which convinced the commander to demote him. The examining doctor recommended that Young go to a field hospital for treatment. However, not wanting to miss the New Georgia landing, Young requested to remain with his squad. The commander accepted his request, and a week later, on July 31st, 1943, Young carried out the actions that led to his posthumous award of the Medal of Honor. Wow. That story grips me every time. One takeaway from Private Young's story is that Private Young was just a normal person, and by many measures, he would have probably even been considered below average. But he's a hero, because he did everything he could to serve his country and the men that he served with. So how can you and I honor the sacrifice of Private Young and the many others and preserve freedom today? I think there are two key things that we can do. First, we must stop the lie that America is not exceptional, that it is not a country worth fighting for, that our liberties and freedoms are not worth preserving. We have received one of the greatest blessings of life just by being born in America. America is the greatest country that the world has ever known. We have the greatest freedoms and the greatest opportunities in the world. That opportunity is not limited to us just to improve our own lives, but it is to improve the lives of the people around us. That is awesome. One simple way to recognize American exceptionalism is to recognize the correlation that when America appears weak, tyrants and evil leaders throughout the world are emboldened to acts of aggression. We're seeing that play out today. The second thing that we can do is, as everyday citizens, we can live out, protect, and enjoy our God-endowed freedoms on a daily basis. There's no amount of wars that can be won or sacrifices made to secure our freedoms if we willfully give them away. That's one reason I joined the team at Patriot Academy. We are teaching citizens how to live out the principles of liberty in their daily lives and how to infuse those principles throughout their communities. We do this by educating, equipping, and inspiring citizens through a variety of programs. Two programs we have going on this summer are the Student Leadership Congress and the Military Veteran Leadership Congress. The Student Leadership Congress is open to any student ages 16 to 25, and the Military Veterans Leadership Congress is open to any veteran ages 25 and older. The Leadership Congress provides premier leadership training and the most realistic legislative simulation in the country. Through our Military Veterans Program, we are taking the men and women who have already demonstrated the leadership, commitment, and sacrifice to serve their country and equipping them with the tools to support and defend the Constitution in a variety of roles throughout their communities. You can learn more about those opportunities at patriotacademy.com. Training up the generations and passing down the commitment to service is how we preserve liberty. I am blessed to be an American, I am blessed to have had the opportunity to serve my country, and I am blessed that I can continue to preserve freedom and spread the principles of liberty through my work at Patriot Academy. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share with you, and have a great Memorial Day.